enough with the Germans. Let's move on to the Americans. And our favorite woman. You know, she persisted. And she continues persisting that she didn't lose to Donald Trump because she sucked and nobody liked her, but that she lost to Donald Trump because of these Russians. Have you heard her podcast? Because I can't.
No, and I know she's going on season 4. Yeah,
it's 2 for 1.
4 of the Hill Dog.
I get 2 for 1. I get Jen Psaki and I get Hillary Clinton. Oh God. All right.
Vladimir Putin has obviously your friend and mine.
Yes, indeed.
He has intervened in our election in the past.
Right.
It's not something, as you experienced firsthand, it's not something we talk about a lot. Do you fear that that is something that could be happening for 2024? And do you think we should be talking about it more?
Well, I think we should be talking about it more because I don't think, despite all of the deniers, there's any doubt that he interfered in our election or that he has interfered in many ways in the internal affairs of other countries, funding political parties, funding, political candidates, buying off, government officials in different places. So that is his opus, his opus operandi, in the sense that he hates democracy. He particularly hates the West, and he especially hates us. And he has determined that he can do 2 things simultaneously. He can try to continue to damage and divide us internally, and he's quite good at it. And sadly, he has a lot of apologists and enablers in our own country, people who either don't see the danger or dismiss it out of hand, or maybe agree with some of the, positions he's taken on certain things, including his barbaric invasion of Ukraine. And so dividing us and then trying to seize territory in such a brutal way to try to expand his reach, to try to restore the Russian empire, if not the former Soviet Union, that is who he is. I said that for years. Part of the reason he worked so hard against me is because he didn't think that he wanted me in the White House. So we are where we are. And part of the challenge is to continue to explain to the American public that, the kind of leader Putin is, this authoritarian dictator who literally kills his opposition, kills journalists, poisons people who disagree with him, invades other country, interferes with our election. That is part of the alternative we have to reject in this election. We have to reject authoritarianism. We have to reject a kind of creeping fascism almost of people who are really ready to turn over their thinking, their votes to wannabe dictators, and we can't allow that to proceed. So I think it's fair to say that you have a tough job because you have to talk about what's happening in the news, but you also have to keep people's eyes on what's right behind the horizon. And I fear that the Russians have proved themselves to be quite adept at interfering, and if he has a chance, he'll do it again.
Same old.
I don't even know where to start.
Right. It's the same old propaganda, right? He's authoritarian. He kills the opposition. He kills journalists. Meanwhile, you're part of fucking jailing Julian Assange. And any journalist that doesn't say anything you like, you fucking blackball, smear, demonetize, and shut down, right? Like us.
I'm alive. I don't know what she's talking about. What? It just hits different, fam, being here and hearing her say these same things that she's been saying for like 7 years or more now. Like, I mean, it hits different because, Vladimir Putin, every time he goes and talks, and Vladimir Putin isn't somebody that I'm ideologically in agreement on everything with by any means. But one of the things I respect about Putin is the way he says things so directly to the United States that just very valid points that are just very pragmatic. Like, you know, you guys are the ones that have invaded countries. You are the ones that have been military bases all over the place. You are the ones that violated the Minsk agreements. You know, you like, I mean, this, you could just go down the list. There is zero proof here. And this is what Jen Psaki's purpose is. Jen Psaki is interviewing Hillary Clinton, not because she's an amazing journalist. Jen Psaki is interviewing Hillary Clinton because she was put there as a narrative manager and a PR person, because she changed from one PR position to the other. And she's now on NBC or MSNBC, I forget which one it is, with her little show where she gets to interview Hillary Clinton, not really interviewing her, but giving her like a platform to really campaign and push the State Department talking points. Putin is a dictator. Putin is an authoritarian. You know, he kills all his opponents. This is exactly what the United States does. As Jilly said, this is projection. This is actually what the United States is doing, persecuting journalists. And again, like every time I go back home, I'm afraid of them detaining me. And of course, you guys know what Tara Reid and others can't go back to their countries, whether it's the UK, whether it's Canada. So many people have been just targeted by the United States for doing absolutely nothing. So many people are here in Russia because they feel safer than they feel in the United States because they have a different political opinion. And even if I have a different political opinion, I shouldn't be fearful that I'm going to be arrested for having this political opinion. But yet here we are in the United States in 2023, where we are fearful as dissidents, as journalists. We've seen what happens to people who expose or in some way point the truth out, and they're targeted. So it's baffling to hear her talk about Putin in this way when actually that's not the case. And a lot of people here have different opinions about Putin. And what does happen is that Putin and others like Daniel Ortega don't allow the United States to come in and fund their opposition and overthrow their government. Just like they tried with Alexei Navalny, like they tried with Juan Guaido in Venezuela, and like they've tried with the opposition in Nicaragua. So that's a little bit different than saying they jailed their opposition. Again, this is what they use. They're jailing U.S.-funded people that want to overthrow their government. The FARA Act was literally Russia completely replicated that law and said, actually, we made it more humane because your FARA Act in the United States is far worse. So it's just baffling to hear her from this perspective going with what's happening.
I mean, it is baffling, but it's the same old shit. And I've said the other day, how can we miss you? How can we miss you if you don't go away? Like, and who keeps providing this woman the platform and the necessities to make sure that she can come out and get her bullshit out there? It's just ridiculous at this point. You know, there are so many accusations against her. I wonder how deep they really are as far as the Clinton graveyards and all that other bullshit. I'd like to know more about it. But the Clinton Global Initiative has been nothing but a failure. Ask the people of Haiti. And yet they're stepping in and saying, oh, we'll be here to rebuild Ukraine. I mean, how can you not understand and see that the game is rigged? Yeah. Haiti is terrible. And that's what they're saying. Ukraine is the new Haiti, which he did over there. You know, it's terrible. You know?
And fam, she's talking about fascism. Who's supporting Nazis right now, guys? We're not going to stop saying this. Who's supporting fascist Nazi elements that have been there for a long time, that have been there since World War II at least, who just got applauded? I mean, who's supporting fascism? And again, this is what Fidel Castro said it. He said that the next war is going to be between Russia and fascism, but it's going to be fought from the West under the guise of democracy. And this is exactly what's happening right now. There's a fascistic attempt that is trying to encroach on everybody else's livelihood, trying to stop, the world from moving on into a different paradigm. And it's using these mechanisms that are fascistic, but using it under the name of democracy.
She also says stuff that, it's like obvious. It must be obvious. They on cam stupid. Putin, he didn't want me in. He didn't want me in the White House. No shit. No, neither did I. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to give the devil more powers, right? You Satanist craziness. Of course he didn't. You're a person who said we came. We saw he died. I don't want you anywhere near power, lady. In fact, I want you out of power. I want you in jail, locked up. That's what I want. And that, that's the chicken shit thing about freaking Donald Trump too, as well. Lock her up, lock up. And what did he do? He did the same thing that Obama did. Obama, first of all, is a war criminal himself, but didn't refuse to go after the Bush administration, the W's administration, for what they did in Iraq, what Dick Cheney did, the way they changed all these laws, the way they, you know what I'm saying? But then he went in there with all his lawyers and did the same thing. You know what I'm saying? With Libya, with freaking, Honduras, right? I mean, all these other areas. Syria, it's terrible. It's disgusting. And now Donald Trump, he refused to do anything. We thought he would, if he was really the outsider, he'd have all these people locked up. He would have had Hillary Clinton locked up for reals. And what is he doing now today? He's praising Lindsey Graham. Give me a fucking break. Enough is enough with these idiots.
Yeah, and Lindsey Graham Lindsey Graham is or Chuck Schumer and what's his name?
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell. Yeah, they're holding hands. I mean, again, guys, it's one big club.
Look at it. There's your tax dollars.
Yeah. That's a Republican and a Democrat, if I'm not mistaken. So,
oh yeah, and then we have the whole thing with Dick Blumenthal, Richard Blumenthal, Lindsey Graham, and Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren in Kiev talking about, we need to make sure this money goes to the right way. This is only 5% of our military budget, fam. It's a bargain over there. And then Dick Blumenthal even said, no, I think it's close to 3.5%. It's even lower than that. And guess what? We haven't lost one American life. Do you want these people representing you that don't give a fuck the fact that there's almost a 500,000 Ukrainians that are now dead, that they're just grabbing these young kids and throwing them to the meat grinder on the front line, And how much more reserved can the Russian Federation act? Everybody's like, oh my God, why hasn't Russia won? Just because they don't want to level the fucking place. They're trying to have some sort of, some sort of country left over of Ukraine that's they look at as their brothers. I mean, this is mind-boggling at this fucking point. And Hill Dog, let's bring this up. Fam, you said to me earlier, season 4, I don't even know about season 1, 2, and 3. I'm thrilled to kick off 4 of my podcast, you and me both, with someone I'm a huge fan of, the Democratic House leaders, Representative Jeffries. So Hakeem Jeffries, talks like this, fam. Let me cheese slice. And what we need to do, bring us up, cheese slice. What we need to do is we need to make sure that the money that we get goes to Ukraine, so therefore the fascist won't be in power. That's how this idiot talks. Have you seen this jerk off doubling down on Ukraine, talking like that shit? Like this guy, and he's an AIPAC little darling, Representative Jeffries, right? So, I mean, from hip-hop to civil service and criminal justice reform to Congress, we got deep into what it makes this young leader tick and how he envisions the future of the Democratic Party. Subscribe today on iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast, to get the episode when it's released tomorrow, followed by a new season of conversation with fascinating people. It's like, I think Hakeem Jeffries was on Alyssa Milano's show just recently, or somebody else was. I mean, she has on all the idiots. She has on all the idiots, too. But she had a great wedding. Like I said, it was awesome Italian food.
Mm-hmm. Well, that saves it. Fam, I mean, if I wanted to watch the devil have conversations with other devils, I would do that. I think that'd be far more interesting than Hillary Clinton having conversations with a bunch of morons. So, yeah, I know, Jilly, but she might come back. Who knows? They might get desperate enough to bring her back.
Well, okay. Nobody's talked about her, fam. Nobody's talked about her. Nobody's talked about her. Let's not underrate her. She's not going away. Maybe she comes right back.
That might make you come to Russia, fam. You might have to come to Russia after that one.
I think I'll run off to Nicaragua and wait for you over there.
Okay, so
do we have any other clips from that section there, Cheese Slice? I think we have one more. You have your tweet, right? Let's bring up Fee's tweet.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you got your tweet.
Okay, yeah. So speaking of the Clinton Global Initiative, so this tweet by Jesse Waters, today the Clinton Global Initiative, this was on September 19th, announced their very own program to rebuild Ukraine. The US is sending the World Bank, red flag should be going up, guys, $25 billion. Then the World Bank is sending money to the Clintons, and then the Clintons are sending it to Ukraine. Joe Biden also just appointed a Democrat mega donor to be the Ukrainian reconstruction czar. Her qualifications, she's a billionaire heiress who bankrolled Obama's election. But don't you dare ask where our $100 billion of aid went, because the Ukrainian army's American trans disinformation czar says asking questions is treasonous. She did get fired, though, so there's that. So, yeah, let's play this video real quick.
The true winner in any war is always the war machine. But we're just not talking about defense contractors. War profiteers come in different shapes and sizes. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange says endless wars are the goal.
The goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
War can be noble, but also a business opportunity. So today, Ukrainian President Zelensky told the United Nations what it wanted to hear.
Humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives. This means that extreme weather will still impact the normal global life, and some evil state will also weaponize its outcomes. When islands and countries disappear underwater, and when tornadoes and deserts are spreading into new territories, and when all of this is happening, one unnatural disaster in Moscow decided to launch a big war.
What country is disappearing underwater? And his country's getting shelled to death, and he's begging us to buy electric cars? Sounds like he's just trying to consolidate Western support for Ukraine by speaking their language and appealing to their green god. Joe Biden approves this message.
I asked the United States Congress for additional funds to expand World Bank financing by $25 billion. If you allow Ukraine to be carved up, is the independence of any nation secure? I'd respectfully suggest the answer is no. It's not only an investment in Ukraine's future, but in the future of every country.
So we have to save the future of the world by saving Ukraine. That is the message. Save democracy, the environment, and the children. And once you say those magic words, the Clintons appear. Today, just 5 minutes from the United Nations, the Clinton Global Initiative announced their very own program to rebuild Ukraine. In other words, the Clintons have found their new Haiti.
Do we really believe we can make the future better for ourselves and others or not? Doesn't matter if I'm rich and famous and powerful, I can still make a difference, and I can't let anything stand in my way.
Then came Hillary, 1-2 punch.
I believe their fight is our fight, their fight for freedom. So we have to stay with the Ukrainians, and it is really important not to push them to negotiate when, number one, the person you negotiate with is not trustworthy. You cannot trust anything he says.
Diplomat Hillary doesn't want a peace summit. Why rebuild half the country when you can rebuild the whole country years later? They're calling it the Clinton Global Initiative Ukraine Action Network, in a salute to Al Sharpton, whose charities never dodge taxes. Early investors include actor Matt Damon, Liv Schreiber, the Ford Foundation, and of course, Airbnb. Also, the World Bank is in bed with the Clinton Ukraine Action Network. So what did Joe Biden just tell us? The U.S. is sending the World Bank $25 billion, and then the World Bank is sending the money to the Clintons, and then the Clintons are sending it to Ukraine. Now, if you think the Clintons are the only profiteers feasting on the proxy war, you're wrong. Joe Biden just appointed a Democrat mega donor to be Ukraine reconstruction czar.
We are pleased to extend a warm welcome to Penny Pritzker, former Secretary of Commerce, who was named by President Biden as the special representative for Ukraine's economic recovery.
So how is Penny Pritzker qualified to rebuild Ukraine? Well, she's a billionaire heiress of the Pritzker family who founded Hyatt Hotels and who bankrolled Obama's election. And in return, Penny was named Commerce Secretary, where she just happened to travel to Ukraine at least 3 times, hand-delivering the billion-dollar loans that Biden leveraged to get the prosecutor fired. Guess who she brought with her to Ukraine? Hyatt Hotel executives, you know, the company she owns. Also the DuPonts, the Delaware chemical tycoons who sponsor Joe Biden. Penny is the perfect czar. But this gravy train doesn't stop there. Head of the teachers' unions, Randy Weingartner, has taken a keen interest in a war zone.
In the last year, I've been in Ukraine 3 times, I and several of my other officers. And what we have attempted to do is to support children's education and support democratic principles. Because at the end of the day, if we do not do that in Ukraine, what happens to the rest of the world?
Your children's schools are crumbling, but Randy wants to rebuild Ukraine's schools. And why has the American Teachers Union president been to Ukraine more than Chicago? We'll never know exactly what Randy, Penny, and Hillary are doing there, and that's the point. We're not even allowed to ask exactly where our $100 billion of aid we sent went. The Ukrainian army's disinformation czar says asking questions is treasonous. The czar's name's Sarah. Sarah is transgender. Sarah is an American. Ohio Senator J.D. Vance asked the Pentagon if she was an intelligence operative because clearly something's going on here. Senator Vance asked because Sarah fled our country to fight in Ukraine, so is she on the CIA payroll or what? Simple question. Why is an American trans man the spokesman for the Ukrainian military? Is this a psyop to rattle the Russians? Or is this a transgender disinformation czar, the perfect person to execute the propaganda war? And if we ask these questions, Sarah says, we are creating gender chaos.
Senator Vance recently asked the U.S. Director of National Intelligence, along with the Secretaries of State and Defense, if I was working in some capacity for the American government. Simply put, I'm an American serving as a Ukrainian infantry soldier and combat medic in the dual role of spokesperson and Russian disinformation analyst. The remaining speculation surrounding me is disappointing. While in Ukraine, we are fighting for global liberty and the ideology of victory, too many in Moscow and across the world are still caught up in focusing on the tired trope of gender chaos. I only answer to 3 groups of people: my Ukrainian commanders, the Ukrainian people, and the American taxpayer.
Oh, the American taxpayer. So we're paying Sarah's salary. Now, last time I checked, if you're paying someone's salary, you get to ask whatever you want. And when Sarah, Hillary, Randy, and Penny get together, we have a lot of questions. Let's now bring in Ohio Senator J.D. Vance.
I think we can
you've been
cut it off here.
by the transgender Ukrainian American tax.
So, fam, go ahead, fam.
No, a lot there. So I just want to summarize that by saying, you know, Ukraine is a money laundering center for the military-industrial complex. We know this. We knew this when Victoria Nuland said, fuck the EU. They don't care about screwing Europe. They don't care about screwing, you know, anybody, especially the Ukrainians. So as long as they get their military objectives done, I believe Ukraine is also a project for the 4th Industrial Revolution, which is why you're seeing the Clinton Foundation involved. You're seeing the World Bank. You're seeing everything that Jesse pointed out, all of these connections, because they're going to rebuild Ukraine to be the epicenter of what they want the rest of Europe to look like and the rest of the world to look like. And so what Ukraine isn't, though, is a democracy, as they've been trying to paint it all this time. And notice, like, the thread that they keep saying is, if we help Ukraine, we're helping the rest of the world. We're helping you. We're helping the American people. We're helping everybody in the world. Because if Ukraine goes down, the rest of the world goes down. But I think the problem with this logic is nobody is buying it anymore. I think less and less people are buying it, and we're seeing that shift, not just with Poland, we're seeing that shift all over. with Germany. We're seeing that shift all over the Balkan area. We're seeing that shift all over, especially in the global south, obviously in Africa and Latin America and Asia. But we're also seeing with some European countries where they're like, this is too much now. But the fact that there's so many ties, once again, with the Clinton Global Initiative really goes to point out what really is behind Ukraine. And as we said, fam, I was looking at the videos where we talked about Poroshenko, where we talked about this stuff. This is all about money laundering. This is all about making money for all of these people that stood there.
This is what the war machine is, and that's why I'm going to play this video of the war machine right now, Ungi's video, because it's what when I did the speech at the Rage Against the War Machine, I kind of channeled and spoke about what Smedley Butler told us a long time ago. It's not just about the bombs that are purchased and dropped. It's about the reconstruction and everything that goes with it. The Clinton Global Initiative is part of the war machine, right? Jesse Waters said it well over there. Why blow up only half the country when you can rebuild the whole country, or as much as there'll be left over for the Ukrainians when it's all said and done? Which at the end of the day, I don't know how it's going to end up, but I don't ever think that the Russian Federation, and this isn't a Vladimir Putin thing, this is a Russian Federation thing, how they can ever allow any type of government that is so close to the West to exist on their border. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how. I have no clue how they'll ever let it happen, especially after this last time where you have Nazis firing at their own people, drawing the Russians in, threatening them on their border, and now sending drones into Moscow. I don't know how it can be done, but it is this one whole mechanism, the war machine. We had the military-industrial complex, which is just the part of the military side, which, pushes Congress, buys off Congress. It's what Russell Brand talked about, create these existential threats so therefore they can go to war. But then you have the whole apparatus of the building, rebuilding, and everything that's needed. And Smedley Butler talked about this years ago, how these companies, the paint companies made money, how the companies that made belts or shoes made a shit ton of money. And it is a war machine that we have to be conscious and wary of. You got anything to say, fam, before I play the video? We'll have about a 4-minute video real quick. All right, we're going to go full screen on this one. What's that, buddy? Oh, sweetheart. I'm sorry, fam. My bad.
No, just play the video.
Let's do that. Sorry.
You call cheese slice sweetheart. That's cute.
Yeah. I went buddy, sweetheart, fam. Jesus Christmas. Here we go.
The military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes.
December 21st was a brand new law. Water bomb weapons and cash to flow. There he was in D.C., acting like a king, he had anything. 10% for a big guy. When some said the price was too high. Big guy said nothing to it. Leave it up to me. We'll give them arms for free. To save democracy. Unseal the war machine. Propaganda on your TV screen. War machine. Arm them now or they'll start to scream. Oh yeah. Give them guns. Give them cash. They know this is forever. Blow it off to smithereens. Break up the war machine. Iraq, Vietnam. Lessons not learned, conclusions forgone. Hope we'd never see it, but here we go again. They're on Zelensky to save democracy and be the war machine. Propaganda on your TV screen. War machine, arm them now, or they'll make us see. Oh yeah. Give them guns, give them cash, let rockets explode and blast. Blow it all to smithereens, break up the war machine. Break up the war machine.
We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
You're muted.
One of the things, fam, that Eisenhower said at the end that's really so important, and by the way, that amazing video produced by Ungi, our good friend Michael Ungerleider, please share it, get it out there. It's a powerful song, even though it's a spinoff of Dancing Queen. Way to go, Steph, his lovely girlfriend who did the vocals there, his friends who went into the studio and recorded the song itself, and to our engineer here today, Cheese Slice, who made the whole video and cut it all together and spent a lot of time. I love the democracy bombs more than anything. I think it's so freaking amazing. But at the end, when you had Eisenhower say, only a knowledgeable citizenry is what's going to bring this to heel of sorts, right? And he was talking about it with our peaceful methods and goals. I've said this the whole time. Yeah, we have some people in America who are very dupe, very propagandized, maybe have some biases against people from other places that they shouldn't have. But at the end of the day, I feel the majority of our country, the people, are peaceful citizens. And if we gave them a sufficient standard of living, you know what I'm saying? There's so much we can accomplish, so much we can do, because we're a mixture of all these different ethnicities, religions, people from different places and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I think at our core, we are peaceful. You know, I think we are compassionate, the majority of people here. But like you said in the beginning of the show, fam, I think people are confused because they don't know what to do. And that is the problem what we're facing right now. I think a lot of us are seeing and understanding about the war machine. You know, Donald Trump had said, there is a military-industrial complex, right? Like he talked about it, you know, and that's kind of a term for a Republican to say that shit because they usually never do. But at the end of the day, I think we all see it. I think how we know we're getting played. I know that a lot of us feel that a lot of our citizens, our friends, our neighbors are propagandized. But what do we do? That is the question. I am searching for that. I want to go on a quest in America with a backpack and, you know, some cheese slices and just say, hey, man, what do we do to change this around? So we're not at each other's throats. So we're not out on the streets. So, you know what I'm saying? I mean, Carlin said it best. You know, the ruling class makes sure that we're so consumed with, you know, not just other bullshit around us, but trying to put a roof over our head, consumed with work, trying to put food on the table. So now we're not around, you know, a society that understands that there's a ruling class trying to fuck us over. They got us off that, and they don't have us concentrated on that, and they did that on purpose. Everything you see that's happening in the United States is by design. So I think the big question is, even though we understand, a lot of us, that this war machine does exist, how do we fight back against it, man? $1 million question.
Yeah. No, yeah.